Own family, well, I'm here 51 years. Still not, I suppose, a native of the town and never will be. But after got married, 6 years after arriving, I got married and took my wife Carmel down here to Dungarvan, down to the Desha. It wasn't any struggle because she had experienced Dungarvan before. In fact, her mother had been coming down here learning Irish on occasions. So it was a second home. So we set up in Ballin Road, just 2 miles out. I worked with the County Council for 19 years, followed by 27 with the Town Council. But along the way, we collected 5 children, the 3 boys followed by 2 girls. We won't go into detail about who's best or otherwise. I want to be able to go home tonight. But we have that growing family of 5.
At this stage, I mean, you are kind of a native Dungarvan. So I know you're with the council and you were involved with a lot of the different commemorations and different things over the years.
That's right. I suppose for a while we could say that the square was home to me. We had some great celebrations here. In fact, the celebrations in the square, naturally being the focal point of the town, was where the celebrations and other gatherings would be. We had, for instance, we had the markets here from the very earliest days, where the people from Ring and the countryside all around came in to sell their produce. And you have the photographs on the Dungarvan Museum site, Waterford County Images, where you'll see the market in operation, the piles of seaweed that they used to bring in, all the rest of the produce, the animals, and of course the fair days. Lots of photographs there as well. Very much the focal point, as a market square, I suppose, should be. The public events were held here. The political meetings, of course, from the very start, no doubt, in the late 1800s, people gathered here as well, because the square goes back 200 years. It's part of the developments of the 6th Duke of Devonshire, who revised and revitalised the whole centre of the town, the streets. When Tommy Powers, now Nagels, was being replastered indoors there a couple of years ago, there was a stone exposed there, which I think says 1817. So we know that that particular end of the square goes back to that year. But the square, the causeway coming across the estuary, the courthouse, what's now Lawler's Hotel, which was the priest houses in the early days, all of that together with the square and the offshooting streets laid out a magnificent square, really. And you'll notice that if you stand at the top of Mary Street, St Mary Street, outside the parish church, St Mary's Parish Church, and look straight down, you'll see Crewcorn, the little hill that dominates the skyline around, and you're looking straight at it. So very thoughtfully presented, really.
It was designed that way.
Oh, very much so, very much so. I suppose for the last 200 years, and even as we look around, virtually all of the buildings are the same. The frontages have changed. Not too many, but people are far more sympathetic these days, and they don't tend to go for the more modern. They tend to retain as much as possible the traditional look, which is good. I suppose I'm a traditionalist, very much a traditionalist, and we all have come to a realisation that the modern isn't always the best. And it is a reminder of better times and other times, I suppose, too. I suppose there would have been a protest meeting when conscription in 1917, I think, or thereabouts, or latter days of the First World War, conscription was proposed, and of course the people of Ireland rose up against it. And I'd be very sure that there was some sort of a protest here because it was an organised thing. 1922. March, when Michael Collins came to promote the treaty. He was on the back of a lorry over there giving his spiel, and next thing somebody jumped up and jumped into the cab and drove the lorry away, much to his chagrin. But Michael Collins was never one to be fazed by anything. So they got, with the crowd following, they got down Bridge Street over the bridge onto the causeway, and Collins, who I suppose always carried the gun with him, pulled it, leaned over into the cab and said some magical words to the driver, who departed the scene pretty quickly. So Collins came back and went up actually onto the balcony of what was then probably the Devonshire Arms Hotel, no, half of and part of Lawler's Hotel. But he went up on the balcony there and he finished his speech there. The same balcony actually as the King Edward was not very good on the royalty when he visited in 1912. In fact, the last royal visit to the monarch's visit to Ireland for 100 years until Elizabeth came back in 2012 to say all the nice things that she said about the Irish at that stage. A very welcome visit and a very successful visit and a very worthy visit, which we should remember. But then there was a lot to catch up on between ourselves and themselves anyway.
And then obviously for sporting occasions.
We had, I suppose if I mention Michael Collins, I've got to balance it with De Valera, who also came here and spoke. Jamie Gagan was telling me recently that about 16 days later, or there was only 16 days between the two speeches anyway, De Valera also came and spoke here. Now there was no...
And obviously anti-treaty at that stage.
Yes, they were the pro and anti at that stage. And successive political meetings, and again lots of old photographs about them.
Well, I suppose the main thing to say about Collins one that was one of his last public speeches.
March, well, it was August before he met his doom down in West Cork. So there would have been a fair bit of water under the bridge between March and August. And particularly as it was such an emotive issue, he would have been out presumably day by day, several times a day. We had then the continuing political meetings in various locations, because the photographs of them show the various places where they were in the advertising of the window behind. I think there were some over here behind me heading for the quayside. And of course Bernadette Devlin came down here in the early 70s. And she spoke about the developing situation in Northern Ireland. Just behind me there, I remember one Sunday afternoon, after the Sunday after Bloody Sunday. Monday after Bloody Sunday. The following day, emotions were high, and again, a protest meeting and parade started here and walked down Main Street, led by two residents from Northern Ireland who were here at the time. Later on, in that same theme, post-Omagh bombing, the mayor at the time, who, if I remember rightly, was Nuala Ryan, asked people to gather here on that Sunday afternoon in a silent protest. There were no speeches, there were no political speeches, nobody spoke on that occasion. People just assembled, and again, taking the same route, they marched in silence with a couple of placards saying, we want an end to the violence. So it has been very much the political focal point as well. But you were mentioning about the homecomings. We've had some very memorable evenings here. Starting off, my career in homecoming started with the ladies' football, and I need a lengthy list now to go through the All Ireland that they won, because I think on one occasion there were 5 teams actually being honoured over there on the one evening. That would be from the under-12s right up to the seniors, all of whom, because there was many an October night there, and all I can remember, well, not all I can remember, but it dominated by the frosty air of October, lovely October evening, but frosty air. A moderately big crowd. Unfortunately, the people didn't come out in quite the same thousands for the ladies, which they should have. They delivered barrow loads of medals, All Ireland medals down at the various grades. And as I said, on one occasion, I remember doing the scroll for it, and there were 5 columns of names in there from seniors back down to underage teams, all of whom had collected either Munster or national honours. So numerically the ladies have dominated, yes. We had men's football, of course, the junior football. John Kiley, I think, was the manager at the time. He and his team were welcomed back. We had the under-21s I remember Tony Brown and the seniors who emerged afterwards to be the great senior team. There were quite a number of those on the platform as well. There was, if I remember, 92. The under-21 they won the All-Ireland, and we had, if I remember rightly, I should have researched this, we had the minors back for an event as well in or about that time. The big one, of course, which I'm particularly proud of, because I, even as a Tipperary man originally, I had this notion through the course of the week prior to the Munster final of 2002. We'd had the 1998 run, a very, very good run, and they were in the Munster final on, if I remember rightly, the 12th of July, Sunday the 12th of July 2002. I remember that because I was up the sweep listening to it, because it was the day before the 13th of July, which was the Tour de France passing through here. And I was praying above anything that they would win that day, because the square was all decked out for a major crowd. We had the stage up, the amplification was in, the money was up, everything was there. But unfortunately, they had a draw that particular day, and there were no celebrations, there was no homecoming. But I was so disappointed having the preparation for the other. But the following day, naturally, we had the Tour de France, but I'll come back to that in a minute, because we eventually had that major evening in 2002 for the homecoming, when they won a Munster final. Now, I suppose in many another county, a Munster final doesn't motivate people that much, but I mean, Dungarvan or Waterford had been so starved of honours that here we were 37 or 38 years or something after 1963. So that would make it 39 years actually. After 1963, the last Munster final. So people were hungry, both the team and the people. But I floated the idea on the Friday that we might have a homecoming, and well, I suppose there wasn't like great confidence around the place, but however, I pushed on, and we got a number of significant people on side, and made the preparations for it, which meant getting the insurance and lining up the stage, and the town council guys, who were superb right through all of the celebrations that we've had. They were superb in being there for everybody to make the preparations and have them done on time, and generally without fuss. A moan here and there, but very, very cooperative people and very, very effective people. So we had all those on side, and I remember I was at home at 5 to 6 watching the game, and when the final whistle went about 5 to 6, I stood up and I said to Carmel, I'll be back about midnight. So we came in, and as predicted, the boys were just arriving with the barriers, and the stage rolled in very shortly afterwards. In fact, a woman told me later that she won money on me that day. I said, how? But she said, when the final whistle went, she said to her sister, they were watching the game, she said, bet you Tom Keith is down the square now getting ready for a homecoming. So the two of them sat into the car and came down, and she collected her fiver. I was there. I was there as predicted, dragging a barrier across we should mention the guards, of course, who were also superb and always rose to the occasion very quickly and very, very willingly. It wasn't just their duty. I think they were as happy as anybody else to see a team come back in triumph. But we had a stage here, the usual truck, unfortunately, and I have some film of it, which maybe you might be able to, some video, not great video because of the conditions, but there were bars on it to stop people falling out. But it was a momentous occasion. I reckon there would have been, let's say, a minimum of 8,000 people.
Wow.
And it was broadcast well, WLR, and put it out over the radio. It was broadcast, I think, above in Cork after the game, that there would be a homecoming in Dungarvan, which there was. And the people turned out, a goodly 8,000 people. And gave a superb welcome. The bus rolled in here, the team got off, and they were all introduced as standard practice on the stage. And we have some photographs of it, not a huge number. We also have some video just to record the situation. One of the really great moments, I think, here in the square. In 1998, of course, we had the Tour de France passing through. Because of the Sean Kelly and Stephen Roach and their popularity on the circuit, they were able to get the starting 3 days, which France have done from time to time, sent the start of the Tour de France to other countries. But we got it for the 3 days, which was that famous 12th of July, which would have been the 11th, 12th and 13th of July. And they rolled through here, the peloton, and as many of the advertising ones as came over all rolled through here. We started our preparations in January. I think it was announced that we'd have early January, early February. We started our preparations and promoted the thing well. We were happy to be named as one of the places. Naturally, Carrick was always going to be, being Sean's hometown, that was always going to be one of the destinations. So we were happy enough to get it. Waterford City did, of course, as well. But I think Dungarvan was really the memorable place in County Waterford, with a twinkle in the eye. We had, again, thousands out. This time, not just in the square, but we had them in the square. But from about a mile out, the crowd started, and right through and through the square, up Mary Street and out and on to Cork. It was a Chris Boardman that actually crashed just around Youghal. He was actually leading the race at the time and possibly going to be in the final shake-up, but unfortunately he crashed out just after Youghal Bridge, just as you're at the bridge of the little river there. More drama. But it was a great day for the town. Unfortunately, the nature of a cycle race passing is that it all happens within that couple of minutes.
But
we had put our 5 months into it, and I think we got the value of it, you know. We certainly did, because there were a couple of television screens here in the square just with the PA people, and we were watching, and it didn't go live. It didn't go live on TV, on the sports channels, until about 2 miles out on the Waterford side, and we were biting our nails because we had not alone the whole town dressed, but we also had our big sign out on the field. It was 75 by 40, fought Dungarvan and Tour de France. We had that out just on the side of the sweep on the hill, so, because we were told that there would be about 3 helicopters and 3 or 4 fixed-wing aircraft covering the thing, and we didn't want to pass up the opportunity. So we put together, and I must acknowledge that we did that on the sports centre in the evenings, and we had some students in on at the summer camp on the student summer job scheme at the time. So I hijacked their talents. And between us, we managed to paint the sign, which of course had 6-foot letters, and trying to get the perspective in a 60 by 100 hall of 6-foot letters. But we did it. Put it out on the evening before. We put it out on the side of the hill, weighted it down with steel pipes from Coffee Engineering. Everybody was very cooperative on the occasion. Put it out there. The landowner said delighted to have it, and then sat back to see whether or not it would be seen. So the race came through the town, came through Abbeyside. Jimmy McGee was doing the commentary, gave us great praise passing through about all the colour and festivities and the crowds that were out. He was very, very highly appreciative of what was done and gave us great praise. The town, great praise for what had been done. Because there was a committee working on this, not just me. I was one of the gang. Always under the chairmanship of the mayor of the time, who gave the nod for various things, and we just went and did, give them free rein. So it passed through, went up Main Street, everybody sighed a sigh of relief. People headed for the bars. We did have music beforehand, during and after it, and a certain number stayed on, but people tended to scatter a bit and go off and do their own thing. So we continued to watch the TV because we were interested to know whether or not. So it followed it out along near the bottom of the sweep. It broke for ads, and we moaned and groaned that they won't be back in time. When they did come back, the cyclists were making their way up the sweep, up the hill, because there was a prime at the top of that. So naturally they were going to follow the drama of that prime, which they did. I can't remember who won it at the top of the sweep, so we said, that's us gone. So, but they went back to catch the rest of the peloton, who were a goodly bit behind, and picked up our sign. Major cheer from the square. Major cheer from the square. All worthwhile. So they went back to the race for about a half a minute or a minute, and came back and had a second look at the sign. So it was doubly. So there we were, going out all over Europe, and possibly even some parts of the wider world. But our 75 by 40, that cost about €200 to make at the time, courtesy of all the people who had chipped in. Not sure whether this is fit for recording or broadcast afterwards, but they went over. They made their way over to Youghal, and about 3 miles this side of Youghal, Bord Bia had decided that they would do a similar thing on the side of the hill, but they weren't. They weren't willing to settle for a silage cover with the yellow, red, and green paint. Don't ever use red from a distance. It's not a great colour, as we found out. But Bord Bia decided that they took a field on the side of the hill, same principle as ourselves. They ploughed it, set barley in it, paused to set barley, leased it for the year presumably, set barley in it, and of course it came up, and it being the 12th, 13th or 13th of July, it had ripened. So it was a lovely golden colour. So they cut out with the mowing machine Ireland Food Island, and they filled that in with bark. So now you have the contrast of the dark bark and the golden corn. It had been designed, in fact, by Jerry, who was doing the agricultural programs on TV at the time. But he had designed it. Ireland Food Island. Cost 53,000, we're told. They got no look at television. It was deemed to be a commercial sign, and of course, because the squad, there was a hit squad, used to come before the Tour de France, not too long before, and they would take away any unauthorized sign. They would whip it down, just throw it over the ditch, and we're gone. The road, of course, was closed.
Are you supposed to pay for these?
Oh yes, dearly. But the road was closed between Lemmy Bryan and, well, Youghal at the end of our county. And there had been a lot of detail gone into, manholes were lifted, checked and put down again, and welded into position. The same kind of precautions that had been taken for the presidential visits. I know that they did the same above in Ballyculleen when Ronald Reagan was coming over. But oh yes, major hoo-ha for the course of that year, and we wondered, in fact, at 1:30 or 2 as it passed through, whether or not it was worth it for that 85 seconds or however long it took for it to pass. But however, it was one of those moments in time, and we had the crowds for that. In 1999, of course, we had the millennium. We had the millennium here. Again, major preparations from about July or August on. Again, committee formed, centred around the Mayor, the Town Council and the staffs of, and we again put our programme together and made the preparations accordingly. And the stage on this occasion was just over here to our left, in front of Tom Furness, in fact, the late Tom, All-Ireland champion in two codes. Well, not in two, but wherever, that's for somebody else to go through. But we had our stage over there, and we had two ceremonies of last light, which I think was timed precisely to be at 4:22, which the Met people told us would be sunset here. So we had arrived at 4 o'clock, and we had the clergymen in, the members of the council and committee, and we celebrated the last light of the millennium. It was kind of an emotional moment for some people, that 2,000 years had well, you see, this is the problem, 2,000 years hadn't passed, but we were going into 2000, and there was a nostalgia that was the last sunset of this particular millennium. And just as I say that, of course, the celebration shouldn't have happened for another 12 months, because we hadn't completed 2,000 years, but nobody was prepared to wait. Once that 000 came, everybody was off the blocks, because there was money to be made. And of course there was a lot of money made through the computer industry, and trying to prevent computers crashing all over the place. It always struck me as being odd that 12 or 13 hours after Australia had ushered in 2000, and no plane had fallen out of the sky, no pump house had blown up, that we were still maintaining the charade over here of having to check all of these things. But the millennium, yes, when Dublin ran with theirs, they used to call it the aluminium. It again, another moment in time, and it wasn't celebrated just here, of course, in the town, but in I think about 15 or 20 locations around the county, and there were a few private major celebrations as well. We had again just here. It's not surprising, I suppose, that this is actually designated now as the open space, or the shared space, or whatever the modern term is for it. That this is where the events should happen, and they have actually over the last 12 months. We've had some lesser events here. It was here that again Councillor Nuala Ryan as mayor ushered in the team from the Bahamas, because we were Dungarvan, the host town for the Bahamas. Again, another organisation committee to see that things went off all right. Again, chaired by the mayor, and I'm oh yes, I should know, because in fact there's a plaque up here which says that it was Councillor Nuala Ryan, and there's a story behind that too, which we won't go into at the moment, but Councillor Nuala Ryan, and it's commemorated there on the side of the Bank of Ireland, which was where they arrived to. And in full regalia they came down, the leader of the Bahama delegation came down in Sean Houlihan's veteran car with Nuala Ryan, and came in pomp and ceremony to, again, several thousand people here in the square. They really did turn out for the Special Olympics, and for the special Olympians and athletes who were going out from here, because we had various representatives on the teams. But that arrival was here. 2003. We should probably say more about it than that, because through the course of their time here, we had various public events, and it was for the visitors from the Bahamas a great time, and the people of Dungarvan and the district really rose to the occasion. Anything we wanted, it was there. I remember it was, I think, Jack Stevenson, who was manager of the Bank of Ireland here beside us at the time, who was treasurer, and they went through the procedures of costing and estimating what, and they came over with a figure of 64,000, which in 2003 was a fair amount of money. And collecting money is not my forte. I do lots of other things, but collecting money is not. And I kind of sighed inwardly. We never had to hold a collection. We never had to put our hand out to anybody. The money rolled in from the industries, from the people who worked on the floor, who took up collections, to the people who had other events, and they chipped in. And within a relatively short time, the 64,000 arrived. I know I sighed a sigh of relief at that, because not my particular scene. But
and Tom, when did you retire then? Well, you have to. So will you be there?
I'm formally gone from the town council for the last 5 years.
Will you be there then for the All Ireland winners this year or next year?
I think the county council have lost my number. I wouldn't really expect to be there. So far, the phone stopped ringing some years ago. But I will be here. Lacuna Day, if I am standing at all, I will be here.
Well, please God, I think it will. That's the word on the street, is that'll be this year or next year.
Yes. Well, the word on the street last year was 59. In fact, the 50-year course which was allegedly put on them way back, has long since run out. But it's said, okay, it's nice that we have a bit of humour about it. But I mean, everybody is so anxious that Waterford should have the home game. But the Gunniv Day, I will be there. If I'm not up on the stage, I'll certainly be around somewhere in the crowd, facing the crowd. 2003, we have. Let me. We have to finish off with the more recent.
Yeah.
And I mean, two of the great successes, I suppose, are the Sean Kelly tour of Waterford in August. That doesn't impinge very much on the square, but it is a major event for the town, and we'd have to mention that. But the one that really takes place here is the Festival of Food. Every late April, sometime a week or so after Easter, and I generally do MC for that. But I consistently tell any brides or potential brides that might be down in the crowd that if they're arranging a date for their wedding, pick the Festival of Food weekend, because they've always had good weather. We had blustery conditions on one occasion and a trickle of rain. But it has been noticeable that over the 10 years, 10 magnificent, 10 very successful years of the Festival of Food, the weather hasn't been a major problem. And to see the square here filled with the exhibitors, the people, the music on the stage, it all really comes together as a mega, very successful, very enjoyable community event. And I think everybody attached to it has to be given credit for that. I'm quite sure that I haven't touched on a lot of events that have been held here, either annually or once off. But I mean, the value of the square is not for the 8,000 or 10,000 who turn up here. The value of the square is as a meeting place where people stroll around. I have, on occasions, you come in at night and you can stroll around the square. You can go from here down onto the quay. It's a very presentable. We have had, we currently have visitors in from the United States, and they are so impressed, not just by the layout of the place, not just by the manner, precise manner in which it's laid out, but the cleanliness. Over the past 10 or 15 years, through the efforts of tidy towns, the town council, volunteers, have managed to get the message across to people that we need a clean town. And it's so noticeable. Even as we look here, I don't see one speck of litter, and that's the success. I remember that when Dan Hurley arrived somewhere in the 80s, and he implemented a program of improvement and planting of trees and planting of flowers and people would say to him, isn't it great for the visitors coming in? And he would say, it's not just for the visitors. He said, it is for us. We are the people who use this town. We are the people who live in the town. We deserve to have the best, and that's why people should respect the flowers, and they are being respected. I haven't, as we drive early in the morning through the town, we don't see the bulbs scattered around the place, as happened on a couple of occasions, but it's been a long time since our flowers. So there is respect, whether it be young or old. There is respect and liking and love for this town, and you can include me in that in my 51 years here.
Well, thanks very much, Tom. That was brilliant.